to see for yourselves one of the most amazing events.
When is this great experiment made?
Impervious to heat, impossible to move.
Is it human or inhuman?
Gentlemen, do you realize what we've found?
It's time for the Geeky Rummy Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello and welcome to the Geeky Rummy Podcast, Avengers Endgame special. Full house day. Joining me today, Mr. Keith Bloomfield.
Hello, Ryan.
Keith, where and how did you watch Endgame?
I surprisingly watched it in a cinema with my eyes.
So glad.
Generally, that's how I watch most films. But I went to my local cinema, front row, because it's the best seats, Screen 1.
Shameless plug.
It was good. Yeah, real Cinema Quinton. It's good. Now they've got their screen sorted out.
What was wrong with their screen? Was it really
slightly out of focus.
Screen?
So when I went to see the Lego Movie 2 and How to Train Your Dragon, I had to say, there's something wrong with your screen, so you get to sort it out.
I say so. I've been watching the film. It might be my eyes, or it might be the screen. I do need to know the screen. It's a little bit...
It was because, it was spoiling other people's enjoyment of the films as well.
Was it, or did you just need to go to Specsavers?
No, it was because it was out of focus. They'd botched it.
You didn't drop your glasses in the cinema, wandering around like Valma, wearing my glasses.
If I dropped my glasses, a cinema screen several feet in front of me would be the least of my problems. I literally can't see 6 inches in front of me without my specs.
Kinky.
As you probably heard, Guy Halford is also present. Guy, how was your cinema experience?
It was alright because I was really sort of worried because I booked a 9am screening and it was hard. It was like the school holiday, so I was just like, it's going to be full of little brats. We've had the opinion online and debated it before about my opinions on children being allowed to go to the cinema and that there should just be an outright ban. So I was dreading 9am, it was going to be full of screaming kids, but I thought maybe, I'd get lucky because, it's school holidays, parents probably won't want to get up that early, having to deal with the earliest, so I thought I'll be alright. Luckily, I was in a cinema full of other people who had booked the day off work like me, and it was nice, it was quiet, it was relaxed. There was a man with a pork pie hat, though, who kept standing on the side. He paid a ticket to see a film, and he kept standing on the side watching it, and I just didn't understand what he was doing. Like, he'd go and sit down occasionally, then he'd go and stand on the side to watch it, and then he'd go and sit back down again, and there was no logical reason for it.
Maybe he dropped his drink on his seat, and he was just checking to see if it had dried out.
I just don't know. It was really obscure behaviour.
Are you sure it wasn't that it was 3 hours long and he was worried about DVT?
Maybe. I don't know, because this started like 20 minutes in. It was weird. And also saw Cinema Goblin, so this was the test to see whether he'd work there or not, because we've only been there in the afternoon or the evening, so we can't see him, so we don't know whether he is someone who works a day shift and maybe finishes around, say, 3, 4 o'clock, and that's why we always see him.
You mean 3, 4, 5, 6, 7?
I saw him last night, talking to a female goblin.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes. I can also hear Laura Craven. Laura, how was your cinema experience?
It was good. I saw it on a Friday night at 6 o'clock and equally thought it was going to be really irritating because it'd be full of loud people that don't know how to behave in the cinema. Turns out everyone was very well behaved. There were no screaming children, and I saw it with my family friend who's 11 years old, who had some very thoughtful insights, probably more than I did.
Mr. Philip Ellis, you're back. Welcome.
Hi, I missed you guys.
Yes. How was your cinema experience?
It was good. So like Guy and Laura, I was a bit apprehensive because when I went to see Captain Marvel, it was a Sunday afternoon full of toddlers. I was like, basically people had brought their very small children in because they wanted to see the film. But I went to see Endgame at 10:30 at night on the Thursday that it came out. So it started at 11, so no kids there because it was too late. Got out of there at sort of 1:30 in the morning, but worth it. Went to see it at Odeon Lux, had one of those lovely reclining seats, used my leather jacket as a blankie. It was brilliant, yeah.
Chair goes up, chair goes down, chair goes up, chair goes down.
It was, and the thing is, like, you need that level of comfort and relaxation because I was tense all the way through.
And joining us today, Miss Becky Weaver, freelance journalist extraordinaire.
Thanks for having me.
Becky, do you want to introduce yourself and explain your cinema experience for anyone?
Pressure. So I'm a freelance journalist. I write about lifestyle, culture, entertainment, but I'm a huge Marvel fan as well. So I also went to see it in Odeon Lux, near me, not Birmingham because I don't live in the area, sorry. I actually didn't see it until last Saturday. So I had to avoid spoilers like the plague and blocked every possible word on my tweet deck so I didn't see anything.
So it's just like avoid the internet.
Yeah, literally. And in my job, it's hard. So I saw it at 8:30 on a Saturday. Again, reclined my chair the whole way back because 3-hour film. And the last sort of hour and a half, I spent most of my time in a fetal position because I just could not cope. And then I cried so much that my mascara bled into my eyes. Driving home was a hoot. It was great. I had to have a little bit of a break, just some downtime. But the guy sat next to me kept going to the toilet. I counted 6 times.
Sorry about that.
Can you just sit still, mate?
Just don't order the extra large beverage to go and watch a 3-hour movie.
I had a packet rustler as well.
Oh. I had one of those in the cinema last night doing Tolkien. It's like, that's a quiet film, don't rustle a bag.
There's nothing I hate more. And I was seeing it in iSense anyway, so it was super loud. But I could not get past this packet rustler. I just wanted to grab him and just lob him.
It is too much.
Can you not go 3 hours without eating?
The person who needed the toilet, did they, knowing that the potential they were going to go multiple times, like myself, a frequent toilet user, I always pick an aisle seat if I can, to make sure that I'm not distracting too many people by going to the toilet. I can get out easily. Did he pick an aisle seat, or was it...
No, he was smack in the centre.
Oh,
but
that's
the only thing is with a Lux is that you've got a good amount of space. So it was fine, I guess. He did a little duck and go. But I was wondering, if he's leaving and coming back, is he going to know what's going on?
Well, I mean...
Because I had a panic wee before it started. And then came back because I just couldn't risk it.
I was dehydrating myself all evening. I was like a wrestler trying to get into a lower weight class. So I went for dinner beforehand with my friend. We had a very, very light supper, and I had 1 glass of wine and 1 water, and then I was like, right, let's both... And it's like being with the kids, right, now let's both go and try and have a wee before we go on this long journey.
I treated it like a long haul flight.
Do you need the toilet? No. Do you need the toilet? No. Do you need the toilet? Still go. No. Go.
Yeah.
Could I just say, I think that's a podcast first that Phil Ellis admits when you're having 1 drink.
That's how seriously I take this film.
It was a valid reason, so,
I mean, to be fair, he said he had water. We know it was a clear substance.
But so this is because when I went to see Infinity War last year, it was after being at client lunch where I'd had a bottle of wine and a couple of cocktails. So I was... I needed a wee the entire time, and also I went out of that film, I was like, wait, do I remember half of what happened? All I remember is Captain America stepping out of the shadows with that beard, and I let out an audible yelp.
Okay, I have a point here. I was immediately upset when...
He shaved.
Yeah. First 20 seconds in and he's shaving off. What is going on? It's just not the same anymore. I was really sad about that situation.
Maybe your toilet user, because you saw it last week, so they probably have had time to see it twice. Maybe they needed the toilet so much from the first time that they filled in the blanks more than when they went to the toilet 6 times through the first film. So they've seen the whole film now over the course of 2 sittings.
Over the course of 2 or 3 sittings.
Yeah.
I mean, I could agree with that.
I went to see it a second time this week, knowing that we were going to be talking about it, and this is it takes the pressure off when you're watching it a second time. It's I took a coffee in with me, I was like, actually, I need a loo break, and I'm going to wait, because I know there's a bit maybe where it's Peter Quill or whatever. I was like, I'll wait till that bit, and then I can go for a quick wee. I don't need that bit.
Yeah, but it's only because you don't like Peter Quill, though.
Yeah, similarly, I could save my pee time for the Hawkeye scenes, but we'll get into that.
How was your cinema experience? Because you chose to go 4DX, which I think was wise.
I went for the ultra expensive 4DX ticket for 2 reasons. One, if everybody else in that screening is paying that much, I expect silence and expect well behaved. We had a child sat next to us in our row. The child was perfect. Okay. Silent for the entire film. Got to the credits before he started talking to, I think it was his grandfather, about the film, what he thought about the film. It was like having a mini actual Mark moment.
Did you feel like giving him a little round of applause?
Do you reckon that kid got a real quiet talking to before the film? If you embarrass me during this film, I am going to tell Santa Claus that you are a Nazi.
I did have the arm rest fight though.
Oh, I hate that.
Because the 4DX, if you've not been to 4DX screenings, they're blocked off in sets of 4 seats, and they all jump and spin around and like put you into the action, and it's 3D, and it really taxed my eyes. Actually, by the end of it, after 3 hours, I was like, my eyes just started to melt out.
So you have to wear the 3D glasses on top of your regular glasses, right?
That's too much for me.
Yeah, and I was just like, by the end of the film, I was like, my eyes are done, and my bladder was full. But I managed to make an entire film without going through a break. That is like unheard of for me. It's like I basically did exactly the same as Phil. I was not drinking
just
at
dehydrate
all.
yourself.
I feel like this should be our new way of reviewing films. Like, how many times did you let yourself go to the toilet?
Yeah,
I went 3 times.
How long did you dehydrate yourself for?
Yeah. Well, I am of the opinion that unless it is a Marvel epic like this, no film needs to be longer than 90 minutes.
No.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that.
I was just thinking, I've been going to the cinema for somewhere in the region of 40 odd years, and I think I could count the number of times I've left the screen to go to the toilet on one hand. And so I've seen lots and lots of films, but I've never really.
It's just pieces of pants.
But it's like surely for a couple of hours through a day. I mean, I've been on bus journeys that have been longer than some buses.
This is
some
why you
films.
don't have an office.
I mean, I understand why some
Easier.
people relieve themselves on buses, because if they have to go to the toilet 80 times during a film, what are they going to do during a trip from Cottridge to Birmingham?
I think this is key, not having a regular office kind of job.
Well, this is
because
like
if you have easy access to a toilet all day, every day,
You've got a lax bowel.
If you work in a coffee shop as a freelancer, or if there's easy access to any kind of toilet, you'll take full advantage.
I was stressed because I was going to see it in the morning. I work a morning, and I have sometimes find myself that when I get to the toilet for certain things, there's a routine. There's a certain time I would go.
There's a regularity.
So I was kind of concerned, like when it got to like 9:45 or 11:30, maybe something was going to happen, and I was going to have to leave the room for a while.
One thing I wish is that people could see Laura's face right now. It's just such a disapproving look.
I just didn't really need to know when you go to do a poo.
Yeah, if you get a message from me at 9:30 on the Facebook group, that's where I am.
Wow.
Shall we talk about the actual movie?
Yeah.
Shall we move
I feel
on
like
to the
you
film?
guys have eased me into this wonderfully now. I've learned a lot more in the space of the 10 minutes we've been chatting.
So, Act 1. We'll split it into 3 acts of the movie. The film is 3 hours long, and pretty much each act has an hour of the film.
Yeah.
So, Act 1 is basically post-snapping. So, it's 5-6 days, I think they say, post it happening at the very start.
It's something like that, yeah. Because, because I think in the opening monologue he says like they were able to get 2 days of flight out of the ship and then they've been dead in the water for 2 days or something like that. Yeah.
So we open up with Tony Stark stuck on...
Pat Benatar.
The
Benatar.
If anybody hasn't guessed by now, this is going to be very spoilerific.
Yes.
So, yeah.
By the way, spoiler. I'll put a big spoiler alert button.
The embargo has been lifted on spoilers.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say also, if you're yet to see this movie, have you been living under a rock?
Well, it's now the second biggest movie of all time. At the time of recording, it is just behind Avatar for gross revenue.
Who the hell likes Avatar?
Right, okay, this was the thing, the 4 avatars thing.
Oh yeah, let's not even get into
Detour, we can come back to that.
Let's return to the future of Marvel and Disney.
Just make a bloody Smurfs movie instead.
So essentially what you're saying is we all need to go and see it again.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm planning
they do that
to.
to wipe the smile off Cameron's face. He's a smug git, and if he's in that advert, he's like, I'm doing an advert about a watch. Sod off. Go and make a film.
Did you see his really embarrassing tweet?
Oh, with the Avengers logo sinking the Titanic.
It's like real people died, James.
Yeah.
Like that's not.
It's not funny.
Are you saying that the Avengers are responsible for the death of hundreds of people in 1912?
What was worse was 2 weeks before that he tweeted out saying, "Yeah, I hope everybody has Avengers for C," and just doesn't bother to go watch this film.
Oh yeah, because that's exactly what's going to happen at the end of a decade's worth of storytelling. Yeah,
bitter old man.
We don't want to know what happens next.
I mean, I think we should start a rumour that the iceberg that sunk James Cameron's Titanic, not the actual Titanic, was actually the bit that Captain America was frozen solid in.
Oh, that's brilliant.
That's a galaxy brain take right there.
I don't understand how he feels he can be so smug about this and think that he's going to be on top by the end of it when basically the top version of the film is a film about glorified blue sperm cells. So I just don't understand why he's got a smile on his face.
Well, considering how Avengers is at that point in only like 2 weeks or whatever it is, I can't see not smashing Avatar into the ground.
Another week or so, and we're probably going to have the biggest movie of all time.
Well, I'm going to go back again, so...
Not adjusted for inflation, because nobody will ever be gone for the wind. Gone for the wind. Gone with the wind, that one.
Gone for the wind. That sounds like somebody who's been in Avengers and they've had to wait 3 hours.
Yeah, talk about a long movie. Like, how many times would you have to pee during Gone with the Wind?
No, but they give you an interval in Gone with the Wind.
True. But we're getting off track.
Yes.
Sorry.
Back to the Benatar, Lost in Space.
The Benatar, Lost in Space. We've got Tony Stark and Nebula playing paper football.
I love that little pairing. I love that we had a scene of that. I would have watched a kind of maybe like a whole half-hour like online webisode of just like their space adventures together.
Yeah, I think it was a odd couple kind of pairing on purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think because nobody would expect that, would you?
And it was nice to see them like have this kind of like bonding session because Nebula hasn't really had a proper father figure with Thanos in her life, and you could see Tony was like trying to be like playing dad a little bit with them.
Yeah, I mean, not to get too ahead, but I really did love the dynamic that Nebula had with the Avengers.
Yeah. Yes.
I think I preferred that to when she was in the Guardians movies because I've never found Gamora that interesting, really.
Yeah.
I loved her and Rhodey and her just being completely disdainful of Ant-Man. But that's getting ahead of myself.
That whole paper football thing was hugely a pivotal moment for her as a character because of the fact that Tony goes, "You've won.
Yeah.
You've done.
You finally
won." So for her, that was a moment that she hadn't had up until that point because she'd always been put down and had to play second fiddle to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a hugely significant moment for her.
Yeah.
Can we introduce our special guest star?
We have our own Rocket Raccoon. We have Maxie the Cockapoo in attendance. You can find Maxie _the_cockapoo on Instagram.
He doesn't look like he could build a bomb.
Oh, I don't know.
He can certainly drop one.
I mean, the look he gave Ryan when Ryan walked through the door was like nothing I've ever seen before in my life.
He has knowing eyes.
I'm having that arm.
Yeah.
So the first time that I nearly sort of teared up and got really excited was in that scene where he's sitting in the pilot's chair.
Yeah.
And it's a really, and the second time watching it I realised what a long take it is until you start to see that glow of light and it's like, oh my God, I know who it is.
But the thing that got me when he was doing his monologue to the Iron Man helmet was we had a callback straight away. The Iron Man helmet was the callback to Iron Man 2 when he hands the company over to Pepper and he goes, "It's you, it's always been you." And it was just a really nice little callback. And
the first of a million callbacks in this movie,
And it was really nice. And then, as we mentioned, a big glowy presence from space turns up outside the ship.
Everyone's favourite super lesbian.
Yes. The AA of the Stars, Captain Marvel.
Yeah. I'm really curious as to how her hair stays so styled in 0G space.
See, this is the thing. If I walk outside now, mine would just go. But hers is just like floating glory. She looks like she's on a L'Oreal.
It's the power of the Tesseract, you see.
It's
the kind of
the space
glow. Yeah.
Cree, because you're worth it.
I'd love to see that.
So then we get the reunion scene, which again is like that's another scene.
So we return to Earth. We got Scarlett Johansson basically trying to keep everything together.
Where are my friends gone?
Yes, we've got a very distraught Captain America, and then we get
without a beard.
Without the
beard. Don't forget that.
He does shave the beard off.
Oh God.
Biggest loss, even more than the snap. Truly.
Yeah, it's more than the last.
Strongest supporting character in Infinity War. That beard was.
Oh.
It'll never be the same.
I mean, I think his real beard is Peggy Carter because, the love of his life is Bucky Barnes, but we'll get into that.
So, we get the reunion, we get Tony finally reuniting with Cap and having a quite nicely well done.
Yeah, it's easy to forget that they have spent the last several films apart.
Yes, and arguing with each other when they're together.
Yeah,
it's a state of having a proper old tiff in Civil War.
Yeah, and they have that again, sort of after that reunion scene, and it's only sort of later in the film that they finally do kind of get past it.
When Tony pulls up in his badass Audi with his snazzy sunglasses.
Yeah, I mean, and then we basically have the let's go and kick Thanos' butt.
Can I interject now with some gripe that I have? I get instantly annoyed pretty much 15 minutes in the film. What's the point of Captain Marvel? What is the literal point of Captain Marvel? Why was she there? How did she get there? How do they meet her? What is the point? There was literally, she just felt like someone had been like, we need to get a woman into the scene who's a superhero, so we need to just
Did you not see the end shot of the previous Captain Marvel movie?
You infer that she introduced herself off screen because they
wanted to see it.
They couldn't spend that time introducing a character. They kind of assume that if you're coming in at this point, you know who she is and how she fits in.
It didn't work for me. It was jarring.
I do agree with Guide somewhat because you had the pager which was Return to Earth, but how did she find Tony and Nebula on the way? It was kind of like...
Hadn't she returned to Earth at the end of Captain Marvel and she turns up and goes, what do you need me to do? And so the rest of them say, you need to go and get Tony. They'll be somewhere between here and Titan.
I just felt the whole introduction, the fact she was just there wasn't what we were expecting from her when she finally met all these characters. It just felt really jarring and like she was just...
She's just there.
There's no real kind of
she'd
big
been built
introduction.
up as this is going to be the most
powerful
character.
Yeah, there's no who the hell have you? Where the hell have you been? The kind of bigger deal. Just a throwaway comment. But I feel like it's a problem because they made this before they made Captain Marvel, and I maybe think that the director of Captain Marvel decided not to include potentially relevant stuff to what had been recorded here, and there's just been a little bit of maybe 5 minutes of film missing where we would have needed a bit more of a bigger bang. Here she is. This is Captain Marvel.
May become in a director's cut version of the film. Which I'm assuming there will be a 4.5 hour director's cut.
Absolutely. I mean, I do agree that there is a bit of a disconnect between her movie and this one.
Yeah.
And I think even just maybe in terms of like how she's written and her performance, they really figured out who Carol is in her movie. Whereas this, it's like we have so much story to get through, we have so many characters, we kind of can't really spend too much time with her.
Well, you've got 11 franchises and 21 films to try and cram into this.
Yeah,
and
also,
also,
it's a lot.
Because she's so powerful, they had to come up with a kind of logical in-story reason for why she's not been around this whole time and why she's going to be off-screen for a large portion of it.
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah.
I just think that given how clever they've been with the rest of the franchise, Captain Marvel has been pretty kind of let down by the rest of it. Like, her film was okay. It could certainly have been better.
Yeah.
And then she's in this, and like you said, there's a bit of a disconnect, and she sort of hangs around a bit. And you do sort of wonder if they had this massive, like, important person that could have fixed everything. Like, why didn't they get involved before? And I know they kind of explain all of that, but it does leave that, and it very much reads like an afterthought.
Yeah.
Whereas lots of the other characters, so even sort of the importance of Black Panther movie, all of those kinds of things have been really well received.
Yeah.
Captain Marvel just felt a bit of a dud.
I think the problem with that film is, as it was going to be the first properly female superhero-led MCU movie, where it's not a side character or part of an ensemble cast, it was always going to struggle because people were expecting too much from it.
Yeah, I feel like the thing is they built it up so much though that people expected, like you said, people expected a lot from it. So when you sit and watch Endgame and she's only in it for those like fragments,
I think for me it felt much more. I know you can see that actually that film was made.
It was a Phase 1 movie that was dropped in Phase 3.
But actually, they tried to shove in as much of her backstory as they could, but it very much felt like a film that was made to explain her point. Her purpose in Endgame, which I think is a bit disappointing.
What they should have done is actually extended the scene at the end of Infinity War to the moment you see the pager, and then actually her coming down through space, coming to Earth, and then the next post-credit scene would have been the one we would have seen in that film, like meeting the Avengers briefly. So you could have done it over two, and I just feel like if we'd seen her a bit sooner, it just Because the credit scene in Captain Marvel almost felt like it was like, you know, the end of Ant-Man, where you kind of get that little preview clip for Civil War.
Yeah.
It felt more of a preview clip of something we expected to see in this film.
You had exactly the same in Ant-Man and the Wasp, which was...
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a preview clip for Endgame, really, and it was more of a case of, this will just explain where Ant-Man will be at the start of Endgame. But that's all it was.
Even so, with Carol Danvers, there's no explanation about her, why she hasn't aged. There's no explanation as to any of this, and I feel like there wasn't any thought put in. And maybe it will be something we'll see later. But because we didn't get any of that, and a throwaway comment of like, "Why have you not been around before?" Because other people needed help, I don't feel was sufficient enough.
I think it's just down to the accelerated timescale that we've had towards Phase 3, because we've been churning 3 movies a year. Where in Phase 1 we had one a year.
Yeah.
Up until Avengers Assemble, and it's just been accelerating and accelerating.
It's exactly the same problem they have in the comics when they've got overly powered cosmic characters. It's difficult then to write their ability set into a movie where you've got characters who have no superpowers other than being a bit stronger and a bit more kind of faster than other people.
If Carol Danvers were in the whole movie, what the hell would be the point of a Black Widow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even to some extent Captain America or Iron Man. She's got the power set that can replicate pretty much all of those.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the whole film, though, just her being there, I actually don't think she was necessary at all. I feel like this film didn't need her in it at all. I feel like they could have saved her for Phase 4. Yes, okay, we did it because of the whole we need a female superhero, and that's what Marvel have tried here. It's kind of like maybe you could have launched Phase 4 with her instead and have her origin.
I mean, all the issues that we're talking about, is like, these are the issues that happen when you wait a full decade to do a female-led movie.
Yeah.
This, like Captain Marvel should have come around the same time as Thor 1, Cap 1.
We should have had Black Widow after Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
And the fact that we're only now going to be getting a Black Widow film, it's like, we wanted that 5 or 6 years ago, at a minimum.
Alright, to return to the plot.
Because we've gone way off tangent again.
We've got the team together. We're off to Garden, is the new world where Thanos is having his gentle retirement, making a bit of brekkie, just having a peaceful life. And then the team basically come and pretty much, again, spoilers, kill Thanos without a blink.
Within the first 20 minutes of the movie, to which my dad said, it took too long to get going.
Yeah.
So we've
lost the big bad first 20 minutes of the movie.
We come out of it, and I was like, what did you think of it? And he went, it just took too long to get going. And I'm like, hold on though. Within the first 5 minutes, a load of more characters have been dusted, and then the main bad guy has been killed, and you're saying it took too long to get going.
Oh, but I think by that point he wasn't the big bad though, was it? That was... It kind of...
It was done. It was over and done.
Yeah.
His role in the situation had finished. He destroyed the Infinity Stones in his eyes. It's done. There's no way going back.
I mean, on a rewatch, what I found really interesting about that scene was you can see where Thor's whole PTSD storyline is already starting.
Yeah.
Like when they were like, "Oh, let's go get Thanos," he's sitting at the table with a can of beer, eating bread.
Yeah.
It's like,
he's taken on that whole responsibility that everything is his fault, and even though he does what they said he should do in that scene, you can see that he gets nothing from it. It's like it's done, but it's made no difference.
Yeah, and it's the whole I went for the headline, but he knows himself this is too late.
It's
now.
like it's a bitter.
Which is just lashing out basically because that's all he had.
Yeah, because it's really weird because they give the most comedic characters the most heavyweight emotional baggage to carry through the movies. It's really strange, but it works really well.
But his entrance was amazing though.
Yeah.
His entrance was incredible. Just smashing straight through a whole building.
I think
peak Thor. Because
we've had that Infinity War version of Thor, everybody just expects him to be like pretty much Odin levels of strength now. And it's kind of it's as read that he's going to be one of the more powerful characters. I think him and pretty much Captain Marvel are on the same level in the MCU terms.
And again, so I guess that in order to give this film its story, they have to kind of sideline him in a way, and so instead of depowering him, they sort of like give him a bit of an identity crisis.
Yeah.
And then basically we're left in this first act with the Avengers not knowing what to carry on and do anymore.
Well, half the population of the planet is gone.
Yeah.
They've killed the bad guy, but it's made no difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like it was them trying to correct a failure that they couldn't fix. the way I felt the way that act finished.
Yeah, very much so.
And then we have our time jump, 5 years.
I did like the way they did it though. 5.
Oh yeah, they
and then
teased
just
it.
like went,
Yeah.
well, how many? What, 5 weeks? 5 months?
Yeah. Because I think the assumption was that it was going to take place maybe like 6 months to a year later.
Yeah.
Like time enough to give everyone a new hairstyle, but like, but no, it's like the entire world has been sitting with this for half a decade now.
Yeah. And then we start with in recovery. Basically, he's taken over Sam Wilson's job with the VAs, and it's like how do we move?
Steve.
Sorry. We've got Steve, and it's like how do we move on from this? And he's the only one who feels like he's trying to grow past it.
Yeah, which is that's been his arc the entire time. Is like, how do I move on with my life when I've been I've been taken out of time.
Yeah.
I mean his whole arc in Winter Soldier is like, you know, do I make friends and try and have connections in the here and now instead of living in the past? Yeah. But that scene is immediately followed by him saying, we never move on. I don't move on.
And we have the first openly LGBT character. Phil, I know you have opinions.
It's not an openly. It's not a character. He's credited as grieving man. That is not a character. It's if that scene had just come along without any fanfare, it would have been like, okay, here's a start. You know?
I mean, it's shocking that it's taken 10 years for that to happen.
I'm counting it as like that doesn't count. It's still yet to happen.
Yeah.
The fact that they made such a big deal about it having a gay moment, it's like when Disney said that about Beauty and the Beast and it turns out to be 3 frames of footage.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a version of the Bechdel test where if an LGBTQ character does not have a name and is not seen doing something queer, then it doesn't count as representation. And the fact that the Russo brothers inserted one of themselves into that role because they thought it was going to be such a great thing, it's like, oh god, you have so much to learn.
Yeah.
It's also, isn't it, like, hold on a minute, you haven't even bothered to get an actual actor.
Yeah. Give a gay actor that 2-minute role, you know. Yeah.
Get
I mean,
somebody...
I'm sure there's millions of people who would love a cameo in an MCU movie.
Yeah, and they're doing this whole thing now with the Eternals, which we'll talk about in our next episode.
Yeah.
But it's just like, again, it's like it's with the Captain Marvel and the Black Panther thing and everything. It's like, well, it's taken you so long to do this, so do it right.
Yeah. And then basically, so we have this scene with Steve and the whole how to cope, and then we cut to the Avengers base, and we got Scarlett Johansson still basically trying to be an Avenger and keep whatever's left of the squad together and doing missions. And it's kind of like we get a mention of like, oh, there's an undersea earthquake, what do we do, who needs to be on point? And the rest of the team are just like,
I really wish that we'd spent more time with that kind of like in those 5 years where it's like the Avengers still trying to be the Avengers even though like they've already failed. I think that was kind of a missed opportunity. And also, here was Okoye in one of her 2 scenes. I get now why Denai Guerrero's name wasn't in the poster. They sort of massively bigged up what kind of role she was going to be having.
I feel like that was a lot of pointless controversy because if she's got a very minimal role in the film, then don't put her on the poster. I mean, like, she
either
doesn't
put her on the
deserve a big
poster and give her a
credit.
name, or don't put her on the poster.
And it's I mean, I'm glad that she was in it because she is brilliant. I just wish that, but again, it's like there are so many characters, and she's not a main character, so I understand why she was sidelined a bit.
Yeah. And then we've got Rocket and War Machine, and Captain Marvel says, I'm nipping off now.
Why have we got War Machine still?
Got to clock out for a while, I'll see you in a bit, is pretty much the entire...
Oh god.
And she's had a haircut.
But I'm glad about that because the high glam look she came in with did not feel in character for her at all.
Yeah, and it was more matching the modern comic book version that we have of Carol.
It's the Kelly Sue McCormick version,
And then, basically, this entire plot now hinges on a mouse.
Oh, yes.
It's not a rat. It's a rat. It's a rat. It's a rat.
It was a rodent.
Yes.
It's a rodent.
Yeah.
That clicks a button.
This quantum machine is so high tech that a mouse can run across the keyboard and activate it.
This is where I think it's the callback to Infinity War with the 14 million varieties. Is the rat clicked the wrong button so many times.
Oh,
14,605,000
in all those universes.
Oh my god, I never thought of that.
So we're only in the one timeline where the mouse goes click.
And
blind chance.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Paul Rudd magically reappears.
So Paul Rudd, I mean, he's not a character I thought would play a big role in this film at all. The Ant-Man films are kind of superfluous, really, but like his dramatic acting when he in that first really long scene of him kind of coming to terms with what's happened and being reunited with his daughter, I was like, he's so good.
I take it you've never seen the Cider House Rules.
I have not.
Yeah, but it was one of this was our gut punch, I think, and this was where a lot of people probably in the cinema went, what has happened to the world? Because we're 5 years down the line, half the population has disappeared, but we've got streets which are empty, we've got abandoned vehicles, we've got missing posters everywhere, and it's kind of like society hasn't recovered.
And it seeds what's going to happen later on, which is the people who survived are 5 years older, and that is going to create a whole load of other issues by the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm. But, so basically he turns up at the Avengers compound and goes, hello, I've been missing for a while.
Yeah, what's happening?
Yeah. And then
what's going on?
And then it's Cap and Scar going, let's get the band back together, people.
And then, we just go into like this brilliant second act.
Yeah. So we go into this brilliant second act. We get our...
Are we skipping past Professor Hulk?
Well, I was just about to come on to that. We get the final convergence of Bruce Banner and the Hulk into a single being. And it's kind of the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde has disappeared now, and it's kind of he's balanced. And it was really nice to see because in Thor Ragnarok he says Earth hates Hulk. And in these scenes, and in this one, it's like people like him, people come up and take selfies with him. You've got Ant-Man sitting there going, hello, hello, I still exist, hello.
He's just a giant dork. He's like, Dad, listen to your mum. He's just like such a nerd, but also really hot.
Yeah. And we also get Pepper and Tony's new life on the.
There's just something about Pepper Potts that just really annoys me.
It's Gwyneth Paltrow.
You feel like she's going to sell you some jade eggs at any point on the screen.
She's such a spare part. She just gets on my nerves.
It's the fact that she's reading a book on composting. It's like, oh, that's very good.
God.
And then we meet Tony's daughter as well.
Oh, the plot device. Yeah, it's like, the emotional weight that's going to make you engineer your time heist in the most illogical, inconvenient way possible.
She felt so much like a carbon copy of Ant-Man's daughter.
Yes.
Yeah, except Ant-Man's daughter has had a role in 2 films that we've seen, so we already had a connection with Cassie.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what Ant-Man's daughter's name is.
Morgan.
Ugh.
Yeah. But it just felt like this is a carbon copy. We've got a spunky little girl who's going to tinker with the dad's stuff and say it. Yeah. And we can see why Tony loves her, and we see why Tony doesn't want to change history.
And again, it's like, because it's bringing his 10-year arc to a close, so he's gone from being this kind of, asshat playboy to a loving husband and father. It's just, this movie, I read a really interesting article yesterday where this movie is the heteronormative agenda, just like embodied. Like, if you're giving someone a happy ending, it has to be with a spouse and a child.
Yeah.
But that child is there to basically be like, right, well, we can't just undo the snap at the time. We have to kind of bring everyone forward in time 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the world. And I understand because we've had this 5-year gap and we're going to have children being born, we're going to have the world has changed, people have moved on, got new partners, and this is going to create a whole series of issues, I think, going forward into phase 4. But I think the scene between him and Cap is the pivotal moment here because he's basically like, I'm not an Avenger anymore, I've moved on, I'm a family man now. And then we see he just can't leave it alone. He's got to go and try and fix it. It's part of his personality.
That's what it is, yeah.
It's that self-sacrifice complex that we have for him because he was told very early on in the MCU by Captain America, you'll never be the person who lays down his life for anybody else.
But they set up the whole idea that he's living on borrowed time from the very first movie because in effect he should never have got out of that cave. So he's always
the whole
been...
MCU depends on Yinsen basically rescuing him from that cave in the first place.
Yeah.
But we've had multiple times that he's tried to sacrifice his own life. We've had the whole bit in the Avengers Assemble. Multiple times it's been he'll lay down his life to make sure that everybody's in because he feels responsible. And then we get the whole time watch bit. Quickly mention Ronin. I felt Jeremy Renner was pretty much superfluous for the entire film.
So, I can only assume that all of the white supremacists and rapists in the US got snapped away because he is going after all those non-white people in his serial killing spree. It's the optics of that are really weird.
It's like, my wife and children have died. I will avenge them by killing the Japanese.
Yeah, I'm going to go kill a load of Asians and Mexicans and like become this like serial killer with a like alt-right hairdo and really tacky tattoo, and then that somehow means he deserves having a happy ending?
I think they were attempting very clumsily to show that he was off fighting the kind of structural bad guys.
Yeah.
So it was trying to show him as kind of fighting the Yakuza, wasn't it, rather than...
The people who'd filled the power vacuum, I think.
They didn't really set that up in a way that could make more sense. The fact that when you snap away half the population, the people that are going to take over are the ones that are going to exploit everybody else. Yeah. It's that idea of, I mean, it's a clumsy way of having a dig at current political regimes and the way that kind of like the bad guys are going to step in and exploit everybody. And go, we're going to look after you, but so it was clumsily done, not given enough sense. They kind of just took him from where he was at the beginning and then dropped him into this situation with not really much of an explanation.
Well, they tried to give him a redemption arc, which he doesn't really need as a character anyway, because he's been an assassin for the entire time he's been in the MCU.
You really don't like him, do you?
No, I don't. I don't guess he could do it.
So we get a very short comedy scene with Ant-Man de-aging and re-aging very quickly.
Someone peed my pants.
And then,
or I peed my pants.
I give as much credit to Mark Ruffalo in that scene, going, yeah, it's fine, I got all the controls, it's good, I know what I'm doing.
It was an absolute win.
That was great.
Yeah.
So we get the convention of Tony and Bruce's technology, and they build a working time machine. And then we get the whole, band's back together, guys, let's all suit up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I love the whole montage of them just like hanging around eating Chinese food, talking about what's happened in the last 10 years of movies. It was like a nice like here's what you need to know about all of these films that we're going to be going back and revisiting.
Yes. And then Guy is going to be suing Marvel very soon for copyright infringement.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some time off from the show to go and film the film. I feel like being part of that is helping people, like, help me in my body confidence. I feel like it's helping others with body confidence. But yeah, it was nice to get asked to be in one of the biggest films of all time, really. I'll be back for the sequel.
But again, this is nice to see that just because you're a superhero doesn't mean you have to look like you've just stepped off the cover of
Thanks, Ryan. I take the
a
compliments.
ripped man. You don't have to look like you've been ripped and like moulded by some Roman statuesque person.
All right, mate, you're taking it too far.
I
have a little bit of Korg and Meek, which is always good fun to have.
Could we maybe explain the Guy reference to people that
that might not know?
I look like a fat fool.
So we meet Thor having a bit of a crisis of confidence. He's supposed to be one of the most powerful beings in the universe. He couldn't defeat Thanos at the time. He's basically just turned into a bit of an alcoholic, and he's got a little bit of a potbelly going on.
The vibe he has in this film is so perfect though, because Thor is that kind of golden boy who was a real jock and popular like as a younger man, and now he's sort of just like really lost. He's like, I've graduated and like everyone else has moved away and I just don't know what I'm doing with my life, and he's just like hanging around playing video games, drinking beer. Like everyone knows that guy.
Well, he's lost the two people who guided his life the most. He's lost his mother, he's lost his father. Even Loki, for what is worth, gave him some guidance, and you can feel like he has completely lost everything around him, and he just doesn't know how to carry on anymore. We got New Asgard, which I'm sure is going to be a new tourist destination very soon, and we get a little bit of Valkyrie, which is nice to see.
But we get more of her towards the end, which made me very happy.
I think it's nice the way they brought him back, and there's like you get the Lebowski references, and it was nice to see that. Just because you're one of the most powerful beings in the world doesn't mean you can't have a couple of off months.
Yeah. That's what I really liked as well. I liked that they showed that vulnerable side of Thor. That he's not just this big kick-ass guy all the time.
And they do kind of... They've changed the character with each movie that he's been in a bit. And I think the last few it's worked. Like, basically turning him into just like a dumb, funny jock in Ragnarok worked. And then that worked because then it led into this... Well, what happens when the dumb, funny jock kind of has a huge loss?
Yeah.
And he goes through this kind of like depressive slump, and it does track.
Yeah.
Some of the fat jokes felt a bit kind of ish.
Yeah.
But I liked that when he rediscovers that he's worthy, he doesn't magically become buff again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, although, again, without trying to sound like I just keep going on about it, it does feel like for what they've done, which is they've treated him very well, and they've played his vulnerability very well, and they've really thought about it. Where was that on some of the other characters?
That's a good point.
So it feels, again, without trying to make comic book films feel like male films, it feels very much like this is aimed at the kind of what we're seeing with a lot of the stuff around toxic masculinity and that kind of issue, which is very good. But I just wonder how they've managed to make a film which is very carefully and very considered with that, but then failed so well with some of the other characters.
With such a big cast, it was going to be everybody was going to be an avatar for something going on, and I think that's the problem that they had. Was you had the whole Jeremy Renner bit with the redemption arc, you had Thor with his Christ and confidence. They've had to just basically concentrate on one character to have.
They've had to basically just guide the film around the core trinity of characters that they'd set up from the very beginning. So it's Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor. They've got to somehow resolve their kind of arcs, and in 3 hours, even with 3 hours, they still can't deal with all of that, clear the chessboard to a certain extent to ready themselves for what comes next. So I think it is a case of some people getting short shrift because narratively they're just like, how do we deal with this? And I don't think it makes good narrative sense to do it in there, but I can see why they've had to do it, because they've just kind of had to push things forward.
And is it a case of these characters, these actors are the ones whose contracts are up? They're leaving the franchise. We need to give them this movie. This is their final story.
Yeah, it's their swan song as a film.
Okay, so we move into the time hopping segment now. So we've got the team split up. So we have Cap Tony off on one team. We have Nebula and War Machine off on another team. We have Black Widow and what's his face? Hawkeye. Ronin was what I was trying to remember, off on another team. So every team's tasked with picking up one of the stones, basically. So I think partnering Tony and Cap up was trying to, again, solve their conflicts that they've had over multiple occasions here. It was basically like wedging them together means forces them to have to work together. But I thought this was very nicely done, the way the time hop was back into previous movies.
This was one of my favourite bits of that movie, was how cleverly that was done. There was that scene with Nebula and who was she partnered with?
With Rhodey, when they're watching him
and
outside the music.
And there was no music, there was just Star-Lord singing and having a bit of a dance. I thought that was so wonderful how they were getting those little bits of humour in there.
Yeah.
Because this is where it was kicking off now. This was the beginning of it starting to really pick up the pace.
Yeah.
I love that.
I really like the little bit with the time stone as well, when you got Mark Ruffalo and the Ancient One together, and it was kind of like, I need that. It was like, no, you can't.
And that was like, again, sort of exposition 101. Here's how alternate timelines work.
Yeah, but Stephen gave it up. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then,
It's like where Doctor Strange is like, well, he's still doing surgery at the minute.
I also quite like the bit with the Ancient One to kind of show that there were other characters outside of that main battle that were still doing stuff to kind of hold down the fort in terms of what was going on in New York.
And I thought it was very succinctly done about this whole how to fix the timeline, because it gave us our explanation of how they could fix it.
They could have said anything for that bit.
Yeah.
Really. It's the Doc Brown chalkboard moment. It's like, none of this really makes any sense. Yeah. But let's go with it. That's fine.
No one thought about it, did they? They just went, okay, fine.
Yeah. Remember that scene where Doc Brown said this happens, but if you go back and do this, it doesn't work anymore. It's like...
And I think it was nice as well with the Battle of New York. We can see the progression of the characters as well.
When Hulk's like, this is all so gratuitous. He's an evolved Hulk now.
And why? Although you might have America's ass, surely they must have said that costume, Steve, just is not good.
I mean, the whole fight scene that we have between 2012 Captain America and 2023 Captain America
was glorious.
It was very well done, very well shot, and it was a case of like you can see where he's done now. He's just bored of this. I can go all day.
Like, I know. I mean, the slash fic that will be written about that scene.
I mean, again, it's
Hold
another.
on a second. How much of it will be written by you, though?
A lot.
I mean, Chris Evans, though, as the embodiment of Steve Rogers. I mean, for me, one of the big things about this whole Marvel universe that they've created is that they've actually taken a character that I quite like as a character who's awfully misunderstood in most quarters, and they've took him and actually gone, this is quintessentially what Cap is about. about this is what Steve Rogers, and they've caught that perfectly, pretty much through all the movies. And Chris Evans has been the embodiment of that.
And I love the little Civil War nod as well with the lift scene, and it's kind of like,
Yeah.
you know, he could have beaten up everybody in that lift, but he's on a timeline now. He ain't got time to mess about. Quick Hell Hydra.
Yes.
Got the Tesseract. I'm out of here.
I love that so that was like obviously a nod to was it Secret War?
Yes.
Secret Empire.
Secret Empire. And so you have Captain America saying Hail Hydra, and that was one of the moments where it's so great seeing it in a crowded cinema, and everyone was like, yes, oh, that's very clever, very funny, yeah.
And then we also get the bit with Tony versus Tony as well, with the whole bit where he's like telling Ant-Man how to disable himself.
And then like you get the little defibrillator Mjolnir. It's like, I had no idea that was going to work. It's just, but considering this is a movie about like PTSD and genocide, it's really funny.
Yeah, it is very funny.
Yeah.
Also, Tom Hiddleston just going, oh, okay, bye.
Yeah.
I'm off to my own spin-off show.
Yeah, that's it. I'm gone.
Yeah.
So if we go to the cosmic side then, so we mentioned War Machine and Nebula, and it was nice to see how Nebula's character has grown again. So we've gone back here to the start of Guardians of the Galaxy. We've got Nebula and Gamora, who don't know any of the other Avengers, any of the Guardians of the Galaxy at this point. They pretty much are the daughters of Thanos. They just want to get the stones and fulfill their father's dream. And then we get introduced to this whole Nebula's network gets crossed over, which was a little bit of a cheat.
It makes kind of sense, but also not. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, we need this to happen to progress the story, so like don't think about it too hard.
Yeah.
I feel like that's generally the kind of
the whole
thing.
film.
Yeah. It was basically, here's a quick cheap way of getting around this issue. But I really enjoyed the pairing of, as you said, War Machine and Nebula. I think they worked quite well as a comedy kind of couple.
Yeah, they made a good duo.
Yeah, and there was that one, like, again, like a tiny brief moment, but it was like a really nice sort of idea that you don't have to be entirely able-bodied to be a superhero either.
Yeah.
I really liked that.
Yeah. Then we get the extra little bit, so we go back to the 1970s because the Tesseract's been taken away again, and we get a really touching moment with Tony and Tony's dad.
Oh, that got me.
That kind of flies in the face of everything we know about his dad's character, though. That's like, we're rounding out this guy's story, so we need to give him a happy scene with his dad.
I think we're at this point where Tony's just going to be very young. He's going to be either just being born or he's just a very, very small child.
Not quite been born, I
He's
don't
not-
think.
yeah,
in the
he's
70s,
not
a
born
couple
yet,
of years
yeah.
off.
And it's like, it was very Field of Dreams for me. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm talking to my dead dad about fatherhood, and it was just like, that was the bit where I would go for a wee if I went to see
But
the
I
movie
mean,
again.
all three of them did it in a way. Had an opportunity to try and redress points in their lives when they thought, I was a bit of a dick really at this point. I know, I've not been good.
Pervy little bit where he's just creeping on.
Oh, that was a bit creepy, that.
But that was just to basically remind everyone, remember this incredible woman? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be important later on.
Yeah, it did.
I think this, sorry to interrupt, I think the scene for me that worked, that was kind of covering very similar ground, was between Thor and Freya.
Yeah.
That was the one where I was
Yes.
that's because I can't get enough of Rene Russo.
But again, the whole I'm not worthy, and then the whole bit with Mjolnir flying in. I want to know what happened with 2013 Thor. He was like,
I love the ongoing joke from Ragnarok. It's, sometimes it takes a minute.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's parts in Dark World where Mjolnir has gone off.
Yeah.
And he's flying around going all confused. It's like, because they transport him from different planets when Loki flashed him from places. So there are points where
and
who
Cap
knows
does
Mjolnir
take the
could
hammer
go.
back in time with him at the end.
Yeah.
So he will return it to exactly the same point, I'm sure.
But it was great to see this whole, Rene Russo's character, straight away, you're not my Thor. You're like...
More screen time than she got in the entire original Thor
Pretty
trilogy,
much, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we got 3 seconds of Natalie Portman, which I assume was dubbed in footage from the previous
I don't think she spent a single second on set. That was all B-roll.
I think the one shutting the door was not Natalie Portman.
Yeah. I do love that. I mean, I don't think Thor: The Dark World is a movie that anyone really was keen to revisit, but they managed to mine some really good stuff out of it.
We have the swapped out Nebula,
Yeah.
So basically, past Nebula takes the place of future Nebula.
Yeah.
But also we have the whole like one of the second fridging of was that ScarJo and Hawkeye just being like racing each other to get out of this franchise?
I think it was a case of we knew that Hawkeye wasn't going to die because
he has a family and heteronormativity.
Reconnection with
He's
his
a
family.
serial killer, so he deserves a wife and children.
And to be honest, the Black Widow's character has been looking for any way to kind of sacrifice herself the entire run of the films.
Yeah.
She always feels like she's like trying to make her calls like, this is getting the red out of my ledger, so calling back to Avengers Assemble. It's like this is her redemption of, this is how I've done my part now.
I think it's the best acting she's done in all of the films.
It was incredible. That was.
I think it's the only chance that she's had, though.
Yeah, because it's for the first half of the movie. There's obviously so fewer characters. She actually gets lines.
Yeah.
And the one thing that always got me as well is how awkward must have been when a cat goes back to Vormir to drop the stone off at the end of the film,
and it's Red Skull,
and it's Red Skull, and it's like, hi.
Okay, that would have been a brilliant post-credit scene, actually. But also that scene, it was kind of annoying just because like we've been to Vormir, we've had this whole thing before in Infinity War.
Yeah.
It just felt like a real retread. It's like, if you're going to give a character a dramatic death, don't kill her in exactly the same way you just did.
And I don't think it had near as much emotional impact as I thought it was going to for somebody who's been in the franchise that long.
Yeah, it got me, but not as much as I thought it would get me.
It was just like it was a little bit of a
especially considering the giant farewell that lasted 10 minutes that Tony Stark got. It was like, oh, no funeral for Natasha? Okay.
But I think given that she's had a bit of a kind of, she hasn't had great screen time throughout these bazillion films, how much of an emotional impact can you have? Because you don't have that.
You don't have as much of a connection with her as you do with Iron Man or Cap.
And I think the writing for her has varied so differently. Like, they've never figured out what to do with her. Whereas, because, again, woman. Whereas with Iron Man, there's always been that through line. With Cap, there's always been that through line. And they've just never figured out for her what that is.
This goes back to my point of the Black Widow movie should have been made 9 years ago.
Yeah, and then we would care about this death, But so
we've got all the stones together. Naughty Nebula isn't in the house.
Naughty Nebula.
Naughty Nebs.
Yes.
She sounds like a Beano character.
She does.
It sounds like someone you'd go to see in Benidorm.
You might.
It gets me that nobody picks up that she's kind of, her personality is completely changed.
Different, yeah.
But it's because she always comes across as like slightly
Rough
cold
around
and
the edges.
offish. So I think they just kind of think, well, this is just a Nebula, so
she's just extra disdainful.
Also, there's no scenes where they could possibly pick up on that because they get the stones and they're immediately like, "Oh, Nat's dead. That's a shame. Okay, now let's just do the snap."
And then it's the argument of who's going to have the stones and do the wishing, and it's like, we got Hulk going, it's got to be me because I'm the only one who's going to be strong enough, and then it's like Thor's like, well, no, I'm more badass than you.
Yeah, I could have done without that, but I'm also glad that because Hulk's storyline really is over in this film, I'm glad that he at least did get one moment where he gets to be the one to bring everyone back.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, oh, my whole thing has been leading up to this. I had to overcome my rage to then be the person who saves everyone.
Yeah. It was nice to have that, and then basically a big portal opens up, and then Big Purple's back.
Oh my god. It was the scene when you've got like the trees and the birds and like, you know, Linda Cardellini's calling and you're like, it worked. And then immediately everything goes to hell! Oh. I jumped and I squealed a little bit.
See, this was when I went into my sort of little ball of trauma because I knew it was all going to hell. I was like, okay, so it's been funny now and I've laughed a lot. So when's it gonna... Oh, there it is. That's where it's gonna punch you right in the gut.
See, the thing is, I sympathised much more with Infinity War's Thanos than Endgame's Thanos.
Yeah.
I think he actually had a lot of growth in the whole... He's not a villain, he's just trying to... He's the hero in his own head.
He had to endure a pretty... epic amount of things to get the stones during the course of his time for Endgame. In this instance, he's gone, oh yeah, they've got them for me. It's fine.
It also made it a bit easier and it feel a bit hollow.
Yeah.
At the end, because it's like that's not the one who actually killed everyone.
Yeah.
Also, as well, how did everybody survive that?
Yeah.
Because like Ant-Man took that full in the face.
So I watched that on the second time. You can see him shrinking down as the explosion's happening. So,
really?
Smart.
Because that was when I was like, oh no, they killed Paul Rudd.
That was like when that went off. You just went, oh, what?
I
was just like, what? What just happened? What?
And then you've got like poor little Rocket who like he's drowning. Like save the raccoon.
Don't.
But again, that kind of called back to Iron Man 3 a bit when Tony's house gets blown up.
Yes.
It was kind of very similar kind of feeling scene when he gets his house blown up by the Mandarin. It was kind of like this. We've seen this before, but it's just been scaled up again.
Yeah. The fact that it's Avengers headquarters that just gets completely leveled.
Yeah, and then we get the Chitauri, not the terrible army that he had in Infinity War. So we get the same army that's been in Avengers Assemble back here to support Thanos. So we get the Black Order?
Yeah, the Black Order's back.
Yeah, so we get everybody's back basically. All the big bads from Thanos
back again.
are back.
I was expecting somebody to go with the Backstreet Boys then.
And we also have Gamora, who doesn't really like anybody else.
No.
Yeah.
Because again, she's not had that character growth through the whole Guardians of the Galaxy. She was basically the linchpin of that first film, making them all work as a family. And it's kind of like, it's weird to see them all rock it, and everybody's like, well, she's not really with us here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, again, not to skip ahead, but how in Guardians 3, how they work that into it.
Yeah. So basically we have a big fight scene, which is pretty much, the entire act is just one big fight scene.
The big with the hammer!
Yes.
Well, the only person who didn't give a damn about that, I just didn't care.
It was...
What?
No.
Oh my god! What a moment!
And the fact that Thor didn't feel threatened at all, he was like, I knew it, but we have the little one.
Yeah, I think the Russos have basically backpedaled as well as Joss Whedon and said, oh, he could have picked it up in Age of Ultron.
I don't buy into that whole idea that Steve didn't pick it up because he felt bad for Thor. I think it needed to get to this point where
like
it was
isn't it?
It's when in your time of deepest need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did like the little swap overs when it's like, no, I'll have the big one.
But oh my god, when he gets that little signal and
But he also gets to say the words. You know, they teased us a few times where Steve gets to say Avengers Assemble, and he finally does it.
We have the little callback to Winter Soldier with Falcon going on your left.
Yeah.
And then
the portals start opening and I cry.
Yeah.
Did you cry at the
I teared up and I got like full body goosebumps.
It was so hard though to start picking out everybody
Oh
that's
my
coming,
God,
because
yeah.
I missed the Howard the Duck.
I missed Crackling.
I saw the Ravagers and that, but I missed Howard, and it was like, how did I miss that now? Howard the Duck is now part of the team that saves the universe.
I love
It's like, yes.
It is pretty much everybody from who's ever been like an ally turns up.
Oh,
Although have you seen the meme of all the defenders sitting in a basement in New York going, any minute now. Any minute now.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are like, well, F my drag, right?
But I suppose, I mean, that if you're going into that battle against the Chitauri, you are not going to call in a bunch of kind of. You've got a few guns that will ice people. It's like nobody really, apart from Quake, possibly from the. They're not the people you're going to call in. Although Jessica's got powers.
But it's like that. Even that doesn't take away from how glorious that scene is when all those portals open and Valkyrie is on a Pegasus.
I do feel Clark Gregg was hard done by, considering he was such a big part of Phase 1.
But they all think he's dead still.
I don't know.
We've no idea what's happened to it. We don't even know at this point whether all the S.H.I.E.L.D. people are still alive at this point.
Spoiler alert for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5. He's dead.
Yeah.
But as well the fact that the shield is bust as well at that point, and Steve just picks it up and just goes, "Nope, you might have bust my shield, but I'm still coming."
Just before that all happens, when it's the shot of just him alone going up against everything. Oh, yeah.
And you have the whole Thanos copter sword, which is apparently the new thing is that's like your sword, the top of the Thanos copter, and it's kind of like.
Oh, it's like Rayman, the old Nintendo game.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, this felt like it wasn't a true... It was the Thanos from Infinity War. It felt like this was budget Thanos.
It was a Thanos.
Yeah. So, anyway, the portal's all open. Everybody's back. We have the touching Spider-Man, Iron Man reunion.
Don't.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
And we actually get the whole, this is what a real hug feels like. Because we have the bit in Spider-Man Homecoming where he goes for a hug.
I'm just getting the door.
I'm just getting the door.
Yeah.
But this is really nice. And I cried. It took me up until that point where he hugged Peter Parker that I lost it. I cried.
And then we have the whole catch the pigeon bit with the Infinity Gauntlet.
With the gauntlet.
The Infinity Gauntlet.
Have we talked about the random scene with all the girls?
Right,
This is
so
what we're going to come on to. Because
I feel like we shouldn't talk about it because I feel like enough places have talked about it.
As I
We
said,
just know it was embarrassing. I think we just
I
leave
feel
it as that.
like they made it too much of a big deal.
As I said,
If they hadn't have made that such a big deal, it could have, you know.
I think it was a beautiful moment. A bit, and obviously it was like a callback to when Okoye and Black Widow do it in Infinity War. But it's just like all you're doing is highlighting these incredible female characters that you have screwed over for the last 10 years. They're all in one scene.
And Pepper Potts.
And Pepper Potts. Yeah, like so. Like, it's if you're not going to give us an A-Force movie after this, then like why bother teasing us?
I like the fact that Phil's just called into existence the A-Force.
I was just expecting a giant flag with feminism to appear above.
I mean,
yeah,
it's obscene that you're torn in two different directions because it does feel heavy-handed and but it is nice to just go, oh yeah, what a cool bunch of characters these are.
Yeah.
It's like,
and they're all protecting the soft boy.
Oh my god!
Every woman on that battlefield is like, oh no, our precious twink baby Peter Parker is in trouble. We've got to all stand in front of him.
But doesn't matter how much we try and save the Infinity Gauntlet, Thanos still becomes inevitable. He gets hold of it.
This is where I struggle.
This is the bit where I'm like, oh no, I know now. You know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. You know who he's going to say. You know the line.
Yeah.
And at that point I was like, okay, I'm all right now.
And then you get the knowing nod from Iron Man to Doctor Strange.
Oh, the one.
This is the only way it's going to happen.
Oh,
and then we get the.
That everyone laughed in the movie theatre when I went to see it.
I was half expecting him to go.
So somebody behind me did a full on. I was like, "Come on, you knew, you must have known going into it."
Yeah, and then we get Tony Stark's nanite Infinity Gauntlet appear out of nowhere, and then it was nice for this to be the line that was his real properly last.
I was half expecting him when he was holding up his gauntlet to like give Thanos the finger.
Yeah, that would have been. Oh, by the way, then. Yeah.
But it's basically the line where the first film ended with the "I am Iron Man."
Yeah.
Which is apparently just an ad lib anyway.
Yeah.
I got lost on the whole premiere and the girls wearing the cool.
Oh,
jewels.
the bracelets.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. I really loved that.
Yeah. So.
And then we get the reversal of Peter Parker and Iron Man from Infinity War.
Yes. Well, before that, we get Cap, because Tony and Cap have not really spoken to each other at all during this big fight scene. And Cap has the smile when he sees everybody else getting dusted, including Thanos. And then he works out how it's happened. And you see his face fall, and you know that's when he's gone, oh God, at this point. And he knows it's going to be Tony or somebody like that. Because
also, it's like, we all knew he was going to die, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you went into that last film not knowing that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And like they still handled it really, really well. It was well written and everything. You know, when Pepper says, "Oh, it will be okay. You can rest now." It's like, the MCU's going to be fine. Robert Downey Jr. You're allowed to take a break now.
Well, he's been in pretty much.
Go back to being Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, I think he's been in at least more than half the films. In either cameos or actually appearances.
I guess, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, he really is, like, he's the reason...
He's been the linchpin.
He's the reason this entire...
Well, he's the MCU, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think he's dead, though.
I don't know. We've got the possibility of multiple timelines coming up in the future, which we'll discuss further.
If anybody who's ever read comics, you know nobody's ever really dead.
But the thing that gets me about this whole scene is, like, everybody's been shipped here. We've all got this big, massive fight on. The entire universe has turned up to fight Thanos, and the army's been dusted. And then we cut to a few weeks afterwards and having a funeral.
Well, I don't know. I was kind of thinking, like, was there like a portal replacement service to get everybody back to where they needed to be? Because you've got all these heroes now, and they're going, well, what happens now? Because we haven't come in any ships, so half the Ravagers are there, and it's like, there are a bunch of wizards just going, All right, the number 47 to Morag is here. Here we go.
But as we know, this movie is not interested in the logistics of things. Like, how does the world work now that everyone's back?
Yeah, that's
we
it.
missed out the whole bit of Captain Marvel turning up from nowhere and blowing
Because
nobody cared.
Nobody cared. It was so last minute.
Yeah.
She came in, she blew up a ship, and that was it.
Yeah, but then he headbutts her, and she doesn't move because she's amazing.
Yes, but then he throws her across the other side of the room.
And she wears a badass suit to the funeral.
But yeah, so we have Tony's funeral. They said, "Where's the funeral for Black Widow?" No, everybody seems to have forgotten that she's
Hulk through a bench. That was the service.
Yeah. And the thing which I think every single person in the cinemas around the country went, "Who's that kid?" Which is the kid from Iron Man 3.
That's just I mean, the whole funeral thing as well. It's not. It's just a bunch of people on the side of a lake.
Yeah.
It's not It's not like a big epic kind of like massive funeral
you're
type
expecting
thing.
like a state funeral, like in the death of Superman.
Yeah, so it's kind of a bit low key, but
backyard cookout.
Yeah, it's like I've just saved the universe, guys. Can I get a parade?
Yeah.
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 I would want a national holiday.
Yeah, but
Iron Man Day.
I don't know. Do you think it was worth the 10 years build-up? Is my final thought to your.
Oh God, yeah. I walked out of Avengers Endgame in my head would be, if they never make another Marvel movie for the rest of my life, I'm quite happy. Because this whole 22, 23
Infinity
potentially
saga,
thing is like, yeah, that's fun. I'm done. I've got a complete thing here that bar some things I would like to see happen. If that was it, I'm quite done.
I had a similar thing, but I left Infinity War being like, I feel oversaturated now. Like, I never want to see another comic book film. And then when I left Endgame, I felt like it had ended it in a way that was positive. And I really didn't think going into it that actually I was going to want to sit through 3 hours, but actually the whole 3 hours felt that it didn't feel like 3 hours for one thing, but it didn't make me leave. Like, I left Infinity War a bit like, ugh.
Yeah.
Whereas this felt emotionally stronger, but also like it was a positive ending.
It was it was emotionally satisfying, even if all of the logic didn't particularly work. But I think as long as it makes emotional sense, it doesn't need to make complete narrative sense.
Yeah.
But I do love an ending that it's like, yes, these character stories are over, but this world still exists. You have a new lineup of characters who were just beginning. And so it's like, I could maybe do with a year or two off as well.
Yeah.
But then I'm really excited to see, like, well, what now that you've finally figured out who the hell Captain Marvel is, what are you going to do with her? What are we going to do with Black Panther? What are we going to do with the Eternals when that happens?
What are we going to do with Thor now that he's gone off with the Guardians?
Exactly, yeah. So I like the idea that this saga is over, but like this world still exists, these characters still exist, and that there's still this whole new world of possibilities, which I think is like a lovely way to end it on. And then of course the final shot is of Cap kissing Peggy, which kind of punches you in the heart a bit.
I mean, the whole old Cap bit is, we know that the Hulk can restore him to whatever age he wants, because earlier in the movie we had him messing around with Ant-Man, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, but that story...
I think that would have just taken the dignity out of that away.
And Captain America is black now, guys. I can't wait for the internet to get angry about that.
Yeah, but it's Falcon and that's annoying.
It should have been Bucky.
It should have been Bucky.
It should
It
have
made
been...
me so
He was
angry.
right there, guys. He was right there behind.
There's a fan theory that the reason that Bucky and Cap have not shared much screen time over the last few films is because they have too much chemistry, and it's hard to root for him with Peggy, when basically it's like him and, even if it's just like best friend chemistry, it's like they belong together.
Yeah. Now that is how to do a gay character in the Marvel Universe.
Yes.
See, I don't subscribe to the Bucky as Captain America theory anyway, so I'm glad it went to Sam, which is good. And I also like the fact that they didn't kill Cap and they let him get old, which is good, so that's positives.
Yeah. Guy, what was your final thoughts?
Yeah.
Just that.
Yeah.
Glowing recommendation from Guy.
Yeah.
I mean, better than you get on screen, bro, isn't it? So...
I mean, the thing for me is, whatever they were going to do, people would have complained. Whatever happened, there was always going to be complaints. There's always going to be build about some issues with character development, some issues with plot. I think bringing the Russos in or having them as a directing pair made a lot of sense, because I can't see a single director that would have probably pulled off that vision on their own. And it's kind of like, the amount of work, the amount of time that they would have had to put into this as a single director, I think it would have broken most people. And I think having that work divided between the two of them made sense. And to me, it's basically Infinity War and Endgame is just one movie. It's a 6-hour epic marathon, but it is one movie because it just feels like we have 6 acts which are an hour long each for the entire thing.
I think you kind of needed that gap.
I think as an audience you need to breathe that gap. If I'm on a rerun, I wouldn't mind watching them both.
I feel like Endgame works as a movie better than Infinity War did. Infinity War is like you're watching part 1, and then Endgame actually just, when it starts with, you know, Hawkeye, his family disappearing, it actually does work as a self-contained film, which Infinity War didn't to me.
So next episode we're going to be talking a bit more about the future of Marvel and where we think it's going to go. So keep tuned for that. Keith, where can we find you online in the meantime?
You can find me at hardlook_hotel on Twitters. Take the underscore out and that'll probably be everything else.
Guy, where can we find you?
Vinyl Guy H, Instagram, Screen Brum, Twitter. No, sorry, that's not my Twitter, sorry. That's not as good film show.
Laura, where can we find you online?
You can find me Laura Craven, LauraCraven.
Phil, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Philip_Ellis. That's Philip with 1 L, Ellis with 2.
Look for the little blue tick.
Yeah.
Some of us are not that worthy.
Yes. Becky, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Becky2293.
And you can find me...
I don't know. Some relevant Avengers reference.
Making dinner with Vision off screens.
Yeah.
In matching cardigans.
In knitwear.
Hanging out with Falcon because no one else wants to.
You can find me at Ryan Parrish on Twitter. You can find most of us at Geeky Brummy on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, geekybrummy.com, on the Geeky Brummy YouTube channel. Don't forget to pick out Keith's comic recommendations of the week on our YouTube channel and these gaming wrap-ups.
Sexy videos.
Yes. But for now, bye everybody.
Bye.